The mouth says, "I did it," long before the heart agrees, because the camera forgives delay but not silence. The lens stares until the face becomes a map of every moment that could have gone differently. A glass hum vibrates through the room like a tuning fork, freighted with a presence that refuses to be named. Behind an apology blooms a choreography of tiny betrayals, a paused breath, a near smile smothered, a glance that asks permission from a place just off-center. The words want to land like stones. Instead, they float, unsure whether to sink or teach the river a new language. Somewhere out of frame, a patience watches. Somewhere inside the frame, a courage gathers itself, cell by cell. If confession is a door, then this one opens two ways, toward freedom and toward the hand holding the knob from the other side. Guilt wears many faces, but the most persuasive dresses like certainty. Yet certainty is a mask stitched from someone else's thread. The mouth delivers its lines, while the body bargains, offering tell after tell to anyone willing to watch without blinking. The room conspires in minor ways. A clock that advances too loudly, an index card that refuses to stick, a mug that echoes the tremor of a pulse. Every object becomes a chorus to a single plea that will not cross the lips. And so the crowd is summoned by accident and design, drawn not by confession, but by the shadow that edits it. The network arrives in fragments. A student between midterms, a nurse on break, a night shift custodian, a sleepless retiree. They pause, scrub, screenshot. They widen the frame by force of attention, building a courtroom from pixels and conjecture. Some say compassion is the cure. Others say exposure is. But compassion without action curdles into self-flattery, and exposure without care becomes a second crime. The comment bar scrolls like a rosary of doubt, thumb to bleeding. Shame tries to make itself useful. It says, if I can be measured, I can be paid. But there are debts that are not numbers. There are payments that are not money. When the camera is a witness with no oath, truth must smuggle itself in through rhythm. 3 blinks. A tilt, a pause before the consonant that hurts. Somewhere, a person counts along, building a key from repetition. Somewhere else, a person counts views, building a ladder to relevance. Both are right. Both are wrong. The sound that threads them together is the soft metronome of someone waiting just off screen. At the end of the first minute, the room teaches the audience a terrible confidence. That watching is a form of touching. Hands hover above keyboards. Alarms remain unsent. The line between witness and warden thins to a thread one could floss with. It is an intimacy scaled to millions and worth almost nothing unless it risks itself. Somewhere a door remembers a dent. Somewhere a voice rehearses a truth it cannot own yet. The first act closes not with certainty, but with appetite, the desire to know more than is owed, to save more than is asked, to become a hero without learning the price. The crowd learns to hear what isn't said. They loop the silence, amplify the hush into evidence, and from that negative space they build a map. Words become breadcrumbs. Glances become coordinates. Somewhere a conscience is soldered to a circuit board and sold as a feature. Somewhere else, a promise hatches with a sharp beak and starts pecking holes in certainty. The pulse of the video becomes a public drum. Who owns a truth once millions set it to their own rhythm. Authority arrives wearing fatigue and paperwork. It is not the opposite of the crowd. It is another crowd, trained to stand still longer. A patient eye is a dangerous tool, slow enough to let patterns bloom, stubborn enough to ignore noise disguised as urgency. Somewhere, the idea forms that help to be real must risk being late. Somewhere else, a timer begins that no one can see. The first clue isn't a face, it's a rhythm. 3 blinks, a pause, a consonant clipped short. Small tremors that spell out a refusal to surrender meaning. Somewhere a sibling hears the family in it, The private music passed at kitchen tables and car rides, back when the world had fewer eyes. Recognition arrives like a key finding its lock in the dark. She starts speaking in objects. A tape moved a finger's width. A mug rotated 3 degrees. A leaf pinned upside down. The body becomes semaphore. The set becomes syntax. The person off-screen believes he is perfecting repentance. The person on-screen is engineering escape. The difference is a math of courage and time, and the arithmetic is cruel. Convergence feels like mercy until it doesn't. The grid narrows. Microphones become compasses. Comments become coordinates. Ethics becomes a mirror with fingerprints all over it. Help points its headlights toward a place it cannot yet see. Somewhere, a person holds their breath, so someone else might breathe again. Somewhere else, a siren rehearses the shape of its own throat. What breaks first is not the story, but the clock inside it. Minutes stretch on the rack as meaning is tightened one turn at a time. The room within the screen becomes a maze, where every object is a breadcrumb that decays when touched. There is a strange mercy to patterns. Once you see them, they own you. Once you follow them, you belong to their end. Hope sharpens into a tool, and tools in the wrong hands become measurements of harm. Between the breath and the word lives a battlefield small enough to fit on a pixel, and large enough to swallow a city. The lesson of the lens is cruel. To be seen is not to be saved, yet the opposite is also true. Privacy can metastasize into a cage. Somewhere a hand rehearses a kindness that will cost too much. Somewhere a hand rehearses control that pretends to be care. Language fractures under the weight of both, so the body invents a new grammar. A morse of muscles and glances, and dares a watching world to learn it fast enough. Distance can be measured in miles or in the thickness of a decision. Some thresholds look like doorways. Others are simply the moment before a key turns. The watchers grow bolder, triangulating sound with storm drains and timetables, trading certainties like baseball cards. The risk is that certainty becomes a narcotic, and the truth, once found, is too fragile to stand the weight of the crowd that demanded it. Compassion begins to argue with fear, and fear has better lawyers. The heart proposes a reckless plan. The mind drafts contingencies like wills. Help, to be worthy of its name, must risk losing the right to tell the story later. The equation is unsentimental. One life multiplied by timing divided by doubt. In that math, hesitation is a luxury that costs everything. The pattern tightens until it clicks. A hum aligns with a turbine schedule. A bus stop reflection times itself to a route that only runs near water. An index card's leaf matches a park emblem long since sun-bleached. The path is no longer a mystery. It is an invitation with teeth. Somewhere, a door inhales. Somewhere, a vow calcifies into action. The next frame will not forgive guessing. Speed is a species of faith. You believe the road will hold, the night will part. The plan will remain yours until you arrive. But arrival is another grammar of consequence. The world shrinks to a corridor of headlights and decisions that can't be revised. The watchers become movers. The theory graduates into risk. Somewhere a story sheds its commas. Somewhere a breath is spent like a coin irrevocably. Fear edits memory until it fits the moment. The body remembers doors. The mouth remembers names. The mind remembers the exact weight of a lie told for safety. To pursue is to gamble that love can outrun design. The air thickens around the bet. Every sound becomes a verdict. Turbine, footstep, breath, click. Inside, the dark is arranged like an argument. Every corridor insists on one conclusion: turn back. But stubbornness has its own ethics, and tonight it borrows courage. The air tastes like metal and old apologies. Footsteps practice humility. The heart keeps time with the machines, pretending the rhythm is consent. The voice is a rope thrown across a chasm, and also the chasm. Help speaks in one ear while danger breathes in the other. To move is to braid them. and hope the weave holds. Words carry codes like seeds. Some will root, some will rot. The difference is time and who is allowed to keep it. At the final turn before the door, fear offers a barter. Keep your safety and abandon your courage. The answer arrives without language. 2 steps forward. A breath held, a memory of a kitchen laugh that cannot be replaced. The handle waits like a question that can end questions. Some stories ask for permission. This one demands an answer. A door doesn't open. It confesses. Sound rushes out first. The old breath of a room that's been teaching itself to be obedient. Then comes the geometry of bodies learning each other again. A step that refuses to be small. A hand that has practiced not shaking. A gaze that keeps burning even when it should look away. Fear lines the floor like oil. One wrong foot could bloom it into fire. But there are moments when the heart signs a contract the mind can only witness. This is one. Negotiation is a ritual performed over a pit. Words dress themselves as lifelines while meaning hides its teeth. The question beneath all questions is never spoken. Who gets to keep their version of the future? Silence makes its bid, a tyrant disguised as prudence. But courage learns a new grammar in the throat. Short sentences that do not ask permission to exist. Control starves without audience. Coercion feeds on it. The camera waits like a priest without a god. There is a code tapping under the skin of the moment. 3 blinks, a ghost of a nod, a mug handle rotated to the hour when the day splits into before and after. The body speaks because the mouth cannot, and the room listens. Every object suddenly fluent. Impact is rarely loud when the choice is old. Some decisions were made miles ago and simply arrive now, wearing the clothes of the present. The room narrows to a single act. Give up the story, or let it devour everyone who carried it this far. The pulse counts down in the wrists. The future waits on the other side of a small, terrible kindness. After a storm, the air forgets how to be ordinary. Sound returns one instrument at a time. A fan's tired throat. A distant turbine, the fragile metronome of breath deciding to keep going. What was spectacle becomes residue. What was private becomes evidence. The story does not end. It changes custody. Somewhere a door remembers being a witness. Somewhere a leaf on a card resumes being only a leaf. But everyone in the room knows that mercy is a sequel. And sequels are never guaranteed. After the confrontation, the room learns to breathe again, but not like before. Relief is a counterfeit that spends too easily. What remains is cost. Mercy wants receipts. There is a ledger of choices on the table. Keep everything, share everything, burn everything, or give it to the slow machinery that promises justice and sometimes remembers how. The question is not what happened. That has a body now. But what will be asked to pay for the telling. Somewhere, courage counts out its coins and chooses which part of itself to spend. Rules are promises made to the future. Sometimes keeping them means losing someone in the present. The badge knows this, even when the heart resists. There is a quiet literature to paperwork, the parts where you testify not only to facts but to what you chose to risk. A career is an easy altar until it is yours. Somewhere a pen becomes heavier than a weapon. Somewhere a signature becomes a bruise you earn on purpose. Fame speaks in the voice of appetite. Ethics whispers like a friend who knows your real name. The algorithm wants blood, and we'll call it closure. But withholding can be a form of giving, and silence when chosen can be a shelter large enough for a stranger. To disappoint a million eyes on purpose is a strange devotion. A fast for a better hunger. Somewhere a cursor hovers above. Publish. Somewhere a heart chooses smaller numbers and larger meanings. Confession can be theft when it steals the last word from the person who survived. So ownership must change hands. The story returns to the mouth that paid for it with breath. The cost is steep. A reputation unvarnished, a history uncurated, a truth that will not flatter its speaker. But sometimes, The only way to end a script written by harm is to write another in the same room, with the same mouth, using a grammar that refuses permission. There is a kind of justice that loves lights and microphones, and another that loves closed doors and quiet signatures. Tonight chooses the second and calls it sacrifice without martyrdom. Privacy is returned like a borrowed coat. The body that wore it stands a little warmer. The crowd will not be satisfied, but satisfaction was never the aim. The aim was a life that can walk away from a lens and still be alive. The ledger balances not by erasing the debt, but by redistributing who pays it. Truth doesn't arrive as thunder. It arrives as a room remembering how to be ordinary. The story that once demanded darkness now learns to stand in daylight without shaking. It is not clean. It is not symmetrical. It is a knot that refuses to untie, so the living learn to braid around it. There are apologies that can be spoken and others that must be practiced daily, in the way a hand reaches for a light without flinching. The lens is still there, but its power is smaller. No longer the god of attention, only a mirror that can be turned to the wall. Judgment wears many robes. The black cloth of a courtroom, the blue light of a comment section, the quiet of a kitchen where a decision is made not to pass the link. Consequence moves slower than appetite, but it moves. There is a ledger no one can see, balancing harm against the price of telling the truth. Not all debts can be paid, but some can be honored. The work is not spectacle. It is maintenance, the daily labor of not becoming what tried to own you. The verdict is only a word until a door closes. After that, it becomes time. Measured not by calendars, but by how the body relearns distance, silence, choice. There is no triumph here, only the end of a season of looking over one's shoulder. Freedom is not fireworks, it is the ability to speak without counting blinks. It is an ordinary sentence that does not hide a code. Attention wanders. Responsibility remains. The crowd drifts to the next fire, while the ones who burned tend to the ash. A different kind of audience begins. Smaller, more faithful. It is made of breakfasts and chores, of unfound apologies and unposted kindness. The story, once viral, becomes local, then private, then finally legible to the people who must live with it. What began as a confession returns as a practice, a way of speaking that refuses to be owned by fear. Reckoning ends not with punishment, but with a promise. To choose the door that opens toward breath, to keep the lens a tool and never a leash, to be a witness who pays the price of seeing. The world will forget. That is its habit and its mercy. But forgetting is not erasure when the lesson is folded into muscle. Somewhere a new confession waits to be filmed. Somewhere a new silence hides a plea. May the next watchers learn faster. May the next room never need them. And if it does, may courage arrive on time and leave without taking anything that wasn't freely given.